Hey, Reconciled Church, Pastor Kevin here with the last installment in our series, Why Do We Do That? Where we're looking at the different aspects of our church culture and just kind of answering the question, what makes Reconciled Church feel like Reconciled Church? And we've talked about a number of things. This last one is something that's very near and dear to my heart. It's simplicity. Now, the moment I say this, I have to acknowledge the fact that simplicity is a lot more subjective a term than some of the other topics we've talked about. What I think is simplistic, you may not think is simplistic, and vice versa. Specifically, though, when we talk about keeping things simple at Reconcile, what we mean is we want to focus on those things that we believe matter the most, and sometimes that even means focusing on them to the exclusion of other things. That doesn't necessarily make those things bad. It's just to say, hey, we don't really focus on that here. So we do a number of things. Is simplicity kind of touches on a number of things we do here. For example, our Sunday gatherings aren't big productions. I like our Sunday gatherings. I love our Sunday gatherings, but we don't have a big laser light show, fog machine, or anything fancy like that. We also don't do a million different activities during the week. There's nothing wrong with most of those activities or churches that do those. We just keep things simple. Okay, so passage to consider for this week. To the Corinthian church, the Apostle Paul writes in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 12. For our boast is this, the testimony of our conscience, that we behaved in the world with simplicity and godly sincerity, not by earthly wisdom, but by the grace of God, and supremely so toward you. Okay, Paul intentionally tried to keep things simple in his dealings with the church. And specifically, I think he did this because he wanted what he did to be easily replicable. Okay, so Paul wanted the other believers to follow his example. Therefore, he conducted himself with a manner of simplicity in order to keep it simple, for that lack of a better term. Paul was a smart dude. I don't doubt that he could have, wowed them with his knowledge of the Bible or anything like that, but he wanted the church to be able to follow his example, so he kept it simple. And I can tell you, as someone who, for probably the last nearly 10 years, has spent a lot of time in church planting, simplicity is a real asset, and when people ignore it, a lot of churches have closed down because of it. So here's a scenario I've seen a ton. You see this a lot in the church planting world. You see new churches start up, and they expect their church of like 75, 50 people who've been around for less than a year to essentially function like a megachurch that has 20 years of history behind it, thousands of people, and millions of dollars. Reality check, that's not going to be possible. And not only that, it's not replicable. So let's say one church is able to do most of those things. What you often find is that there's not a lot of depth in there. They might be able to do it, but then the next group of people really aren't able to do it. So one of the things that I just want to kind of state that from the outset, my vision for Reconciled Church is always for us to keep things the main thing, and to be something that is replicable. I think what we do on a Sunday morning is fairly replicable. We get a handful of people, you find a location, preach the word, sing some songs, pray some prayers, take the Lord's Supper. Man, you can do this. As a matter of fact, it would not be that hard if we have the right leaders and people in place to actually plant another church. And, in the future, that's something we'd like to be able to do. But even beyond that, there's a number of reasons why we try to keep things simple at Reconciled Church. Just a couple things I want to share with you guys. This is probably going to be the shortest of my messages to you on these. One of the things that simplicity does, and keeping things simple does, is it helps the Sabbath stay restful. Okay? So, if you've ever been a part of a lot of churches, especially churches that were a little more high production on a Sunday morning, you know that there's often a high turnover rate and there's a high exhaustion rate. We don't want to be that. I don't want that to be you. To be honest with you, I don't even want that to be me. I want the Lord's Day to feel like a restful day. And so when we keep, even when I come here and I preach most of the Sundays, I like it to still feel like rest. I like to, I put a lot of time in preparation to my sermon, but I also want to be able to enjoy the company of other people that are here, to enjoy worshiping God in song, taking the Lord's Supper, and just kind of being a part of the congregation as well. And I want that same thing for anybody who comes here, and especially anyone who volunteers here. The goal should not be that your ministry here exhausts you. My hope is that, especially what you do on the Lord's Day, rejuvenates you. Okay? So I want what we do here to be invigorating. Keeping things simple helps make sure that our gatherings feel like rest. Also, simplicity helps frees up our resources. So there's a number of things we volunteer with. Even right now, there is a fireworks stand going for Teen Challenge, which we partner with in the city. They're a great organization, helps people get clean, sober, and get their life in order while giving them the gospel. I want people to have opportunity and time to be able to be a part of things like that. That also includes being able to freeing up some of our resources as well. We're able to give a decent amount of our giving even as an early church, or as a young church. And I think that's a great thing. That's a great blessing. I want us to be able to continue to do it more so. And then also, simplicity allows us to focus on building relationships, okay? We want you to actually know the people you go to church with. We actually want you to share life with some of the people that you go to church with. And deeper relationships tend to grow not just in a structured meeting, but in informal gatherings. So at Reconciled Church, we want you to be able to kind of, we don't want to take up every moment of your free time. We want you to be able to invite people over to your house, go over to their house, go do park meetups, go to dinner together, just be able to share life together. And one of the ways we try to move towards that is by keeping our schedule pretty simple here. By keeping a simple schedule, we're freeing your time up in order to get to know each other more than you might at a Sunday gathering or at a Bible study. Nothing against nothing against Bible studies or anything else like that. But like I said, we have we value relational discipleship, and I really don't think we can kind of manufacture that. I think that's something that just happens the more we naturally live our lives together, and we want you guys to do that. We don't want every moment of your time to be consumed with church stuff, as you might say. And then last, simplicity allows you to be involved in your community as well. So it allows us to get to know each other more and build stronger relationships. It allows us to free up our resources to invest in other opportunities to love our neighbors. It allows the Sabbath to be something where it's restful and rejuvenating to our very souls. But it also allows us more time to be involved in our community. And there's a million different ways that might look like. But we don't want you to simply only spend time around Christian people. We want you to get to know your neighbors, your coworkers, if your unbelieving family, friends, whoever, the other parents on your kid's softball team, whatever it looks like. We want you to actually be involved in the community. And one of the ways we do that is by keeping things simple here, by making sure that you're not tied up with a million different things at church Monday through Sunday. What that allows you to do is be able to be involved outside in the community. And ultimately the reason we want that to happen is because we actually trust that God is working through you. We want our people to be salt and light in the community, and that means they need to be out in the community. And so we keep things simple here in order to encourage that, so that the gospel might spread more effectively. So that's the last of our values that make up our culture. There's probably more, and maybe I'll come back to this another time. But I hope this has been a blessing to you guys. I hope this kind of explains a little bit more of why we do the things we do here. And I look forward to seeing you guys on Sunday. God bless.